know if you've seen, but it is a tough day in the market. Stocks were hit really hard, oil's off 2%, S&P was off almost 3%. Growth fears and tariff fears directly impacting the market. What do you say?
Look, this president's a businessman. He's a negotiator, not in his career in politics and his career in business. And what has been the end result of that? Improvements for the American people. But we're in the midst of a deal right now. We're in the midst of negotiations. Trump is fighting every day to make conditions, business conditions, cost of living conditions better for Americans. I think that's the trajectory we're on, but you've always got uncertainty on the road there.
There's pain for gain, right? But like how long that pain lasts for, it can be really tricky, particularly when we're trying to actually invest.
Yeah, look, he's got two big goals on trade. Number one, we've heard about, I don't think it's been talked about enough, is look, 100,000 or more premature deaths of mostly young Americans from fentanyl. He's massively motivated by that. Anyone who's been touched by a friend or a family friend that's seen a death from fentanyl, this is just heartbreaking. So he's trying to work with both of our neighbor to the south and our neighbor to the north to how can we go as far as we can to shut down the trafficking in fentanyl. I think it's hard to go too far in that direction. The other thing President Trump wants to do is have free trade but fair trade. You've heard him talk about reciprocal tariffs. You know, we have 250% tariffs to export, dairy products into Canada. That doesn't make any sense. That certainly hurts American dairy farmers. So let's have the parties come together and together work to lower tariff barriers together and have reciprocal trade so it's fair to both sides.
All right, let's unpack that for a second. Going first to the trade barrier part. Just example, when you have a tax and a tariff on Canadian imports of oil, won't that actually hurt consumers? Because all of a sudden you're going to have refiner margins are going to plummet, then you're going to have higher gasoline prices. Every analyst on the street is saying that.
They might be wrong. They might be wrong.
What if they're right? I mean, we don't have that oil in the U.S., right? We don't have heavy oil, so we cannot refine it here.
Yes, it's good for that oil to come into our marketplace, and I suspect that market will continue coming into our marketplace. Okay. So look, there's uncertainty is unsettling, and that leads to a loss of confidence. That leads to fear. But look, life is long. This administration's been in 50 days. We've had 4 actions on LNG exports. We're getting rid of nonsense regulations on home appliances to make them lower cost and higher performing. There's so much positive going on, but yes, you're seeing the sausage making up close and personal. Okay. At the end of the day, we want a lower cost for Americans and expand opportunity for Americans, and I think that's what you'll see coming.
But what if the sausage becomes higher gasoline prices or diesel prices because of the tariffs?
Well, since President Trump was elected and since he was inaugurated, you've seen a decline in oil prices and a decline in gasoline prices. You saw a decline further today.
This is true. They're down about 17% oil prices since the peak back in January. But on the flip side, if I'm a driller, how do I drill more? Because I don't want to drill when oil's at 69.
So President Trump's worked hard to lower the cost of doing business in the United States. We had 4 years in the Biden administration where there was so many barriers and you never knew where the next one was coming. You can't get a permit on federal land. You can't build a gathering line. Maybe you're not going to be able to export your natural gas. I don't want to drill if I'm not sure where it's going to go. We had all those things that artificially chilled investment, which means the break-even prices for the companies goes higher and higher. Trump's longer-term agenda is make it easier to invest in America, lower cost to produce oil, natural gas, electricity, manufactured products, everything in the United States. So I think you're going to see a lowering of the break-even, a lowering in the threshold at which it no longer makes sense to drill. But supply and demand will dictate prices for sure.
Sure. But on the flip side, if you have tariffs coming in on aluminum and steel, that will raise the break-even prices per well drilled.
Two motivations there. Number one, we've seen so much exporting of manufacturing jobs in the United States over the last 25 years, mostly to Asia, driven in large part by China. So he has a goal, I think a great goal, to reshore manufacturing in the United States. We can make heavy industry again in this country. But there's a transition time there for sure. But look, he's a negotiator. He's a businessman. He got elected to lower prices for American consumers. Do you think he's going to change his mind and say, no, I'm in favor of higher prices on American consumers? That's not where this administration's going.
It's just how long the pain will last. I think is really at the heart of the question. And as a CEO, I have not yet to meet a CEO here today that tells me they're going to drill more because they're worried about the uncertainty.
Uncertainty's unsettling. Uncertainty's unsettling.
You know, you were a CEO of an oil company.
Absolutely. But look, you got to give it a little bit of time. We saw the results last time. Trump was in 4 years in his first term, Trump 45. There was a lot of fear there. What happened? Inflation averaged below 2%. Energy prices came down. Wages grew in America, particularly for blue-collar, working-class people. It's the same agenda. It's the same agenda this time.
So let's go to the IRA for a second. You guys are reviewing, of course, what parts of the IRA will stay. Tax credits, everyone I talk to loves the tax credits. They love them. They love them for hydrogen. They love them for wind. They love them for solar. Will you keep those? Will the administration keep them?
Everybody loves to get other people's money, you know, whether it's business or consumers or whatever. But look where that's led us, Alex. Look where that's led us. Almost a $2 trillion deficit in the last year of the Biden administration in peacetime with relatively low unemployment. That's just unsustainable. If you shovel money out the door, everyone can get a sugar high, but you have to pay the piper. So there's, of course, politics, and it's the House and the Senate will decide what from the IRA bill stays and what goes. I'm, of course, advising on that, but I don't have a vote in the House or the Senate. But we had 4 years of a lot of money going out of the door, a lot of it in the name of new energies or whatever. And what did we get? Higher priced energy over those 4 years. Of course, it's going to be a different tack this time.
It will be, if we label it clean tech for a moment, our analyst at Bloomberg, they're called Bloomberg NEF, said that over $2 trillion was invested in clean tech last year, about double fossil fuels, but 39% of that was from China. If we don't invest in clean tech, are we basically giving China free run in that industry? And that's exactly not what the administration wants.
Of course, I reject the label clean tech. That's just a marketing term.
Okay.
I think what that means is lower greenhouse gas emissions, but much more material intensity, much more land intensity, and intermittent solar panels. Okay. So, and you're right, China is huge in the manufacturing of these systems. China has built lots of wind and solar, but China last year permitted 100 gigawatts of coal power. Their energy system is more hydrocarbon dominant than ours. So they're not moving that direction. They're building a manufacturing industry to sell products to the United States and Europe. So far, I would say it's worked for them better than it's worked for us. The United States gets just over 3% of our primary energy from wind, solar, and batteries. 3%. Hundreds of billions of dollars for 3%.
Okay, so you're not worried about that. You don't want to like onshore U.S. solar panels here in a world where you don't like solar panels.
I'm not saying I don't like solar panels.
Okay, put the words in your mouth.
I'm actually, I've worked in solar. I think solar's got a great future. It's growing rapidly. That's not at all true. It's just we don't want to race down the road Europe went down, right? We could put lots of windmills up and solar panels as Germany and UK did and double or triple our electricity prices and export our industry. That's just simply not the agenda of this administration. We want more energy, more affordable, reliable, secure energy that could come from all different sources. But ultimately, the only constituency being aimed at is the American citizen.
When we take a look at other forms of energy, we haven't brought up natural gas and LNG exports, which was a huge focus of your speech today at CERAWeek. How are the conversations going for the ability to build out in the West LNG export facilities to have it be more efficient to get LNG to Japan?
Yeah, look, there's a project in Alaska we're talking about. There's several other projects. Ultimately, the infrastructure, that comes from private industries and private players. So our goal is not to decide what the energy system is. It's just to get out of the way and enable businesses and consumers to decide with their own pocketbooks and their own investments what energy is going to be. But yes, we've had 4 years of it making it very hard to build new infrastructure. That has changed now. I think you're going to see a lot of infrastructure built, but the specific projects will be built. That'll be determined by consumers and investors, builders of those projects.
So you haven't had talks with the Japanese government about this or anything?
Absolutely we have.
Okay.
Tremendous interest in Japan.
Firm interest or just thoughts?
Oh, I would say firm interest.
Okay.
Firm interest. Yeah, Japan and the United States have had a great alliance across many sectors. The United States is blessed with an abundance of energy. Japan didn't get the same abundance as we have, but they also have the start of AI and technology growing in Japan. They have growing energy demand needs, and we're better to get that energy supply than from the United States. Oh, I think we have very productive dialogues going on with Japan.
And last question for you, because I have to ask it. Are we going to see increased and harsher sanctions on Iran's oil industry? And how does that then play into the U.S.'s relationship with Saudi Arabia and OPEC Plus and Russia?
Look, President Trump has great cards in his hands right now, given the American energy system and the willingness to produce more energy here. When he was president last time, Iranian oil exports shrunk down to very modest levels. It starved that regime of money to fund terrorists and to make trouble around the world. Biden didn't remove those sanctions, but he stopped enforcing them. That enriched Iran, and now we've seen what's happened with the Houthis, Hezbollah, and Hamas. It's been mayhem. So is President Trump looking to stop the mayhem and bring peace to the world? Absolutely. Can we afford the squeezing off of Iranian oil exports? Absolutely. From the United States, number one, but also from our allies abroad. You know, I think people realize America's open for business again, and we're seeing increased oil production and increased investments, not just in America, but around the world.